Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I was offline for a bit.
Okay. All right. Can we start or we still have to wait for a few persons?
Okay, I think we should start. I guess election also had the network issue that I experienced, so you can go ahead. So let me just do a bit of introduction. So, good evening, everyone. You're welcome to the Kaizen weekly book review session where we discuss sections of the book that we have read. We have completed the first section of the book containing 9 lessons, and we are starting the 10th one today. And we are starting with the second section, which um, Femi was discussing about reaching the top, conquering the world under my feet. And we're starting with the 10th lesson that says that don't fool around with your health. And we have Emmanuel Idiari on the call, and he will be summarizing the book for like 15 minutes, and then we'll open the floor for comment from all the participants. We hope that before the end of his review, election will have joined back. So, Emmanuel, over to you. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and I'm very much happy to be here today. Um, as a side note, this is like the first time in almost 2 years that I'll be speaking to a few persons here, and I think I'm grateful for the opportunity. So let's dive right into it, right? So we're looking at the particular chapter of this book that has to do with or that talks about health. Um, and of course, this is from somebody who everybody knows is one of the richest men in Nigeria. And of course, if a rich man tells you health is wealth, then I think maybe they might be correct because at least in terms of wealth creation, they've done well in that area. So there are a few things that we'll go through in this chapter or this section, and it's my belief that at the end of uh, this review, you would take your health seriously. I'm sure everybody, of course, would have heard before now, health is wealth, of course, and you know the importance of health. But again, I hope that at the end of this, you would take more seriously your health than you used to, or that you have ever done in the past. So, if you've gone through the book, you would realize Femi was talking about or referring to his dad, how it basically took him by surprise. This was a man that was okay while Femi was much younger, and all of a sudden he came down with stroke. Now, this is somebody that's been used to moving about, doing things himself, and you know, your his life turned around in a second. So the lesson you want to take from this is you can't do anything literally if you're sick or if you're unhealthy. So there's no gainsaying really. It can't be overemphasized that you need to take your health seriously. Um, there are, let's say, two broad classes of I would say people, right? If you're going to classify it based on health, there are people who will say their families have no history of certain diseases or illnesses, right? Um, Whereas there's the other class of people whose families suffer certain diseases or illnesses or health conditions generally. And we know for a fact that most of the diseases or health conditions or health challenges that people have today, most of them are hereditary, right? So you may not even deserve it in quotes. but for the fact or single reason that you came from a particular family or your grandparents had certain, health conditions or your biological parents, you are prone to having those conditions too. So if irrespective of the category you are, basically, you have to take precautionary measures. You have to basically be proactive, right? Um, Now, most of us here are blacks, right? Most of us here are also Nigerians. As a black person, you are there are certain conditions, health challenges that you're prone to compared to a white person, right? We're talking of hypertension, we're talking of stroke, talking of type 2 diabetes, for instance. I think there's a stat that Black adults generally have, or are 60 to 70% more likely to have type 2 diabetes or diagnosed with type 2 diabetes than, the average white. So if you look at that stat, it means if you're a black person, you need to be more conscious, right? And then even as a Nigerian, you are further prone to some health conditions, by virtue of where you're from, by virtue of healthcare challenges, the affordability of healthcare, what's the likelihood, that you're able to get emergency care when the need arises. So if you consider these things, you're better off just being proactive, right? So there are a few bullet points that Femi had mentioned, and we'll just run through them, quickly. The first one is health is wealth, obviously, and I think that's sort of encapsulates this section. Literally, every other thing that would come after is just sort of building on top of that, right? Health is wealth. And personally, I like to compare health to money. Literally, or if you're not trying to be too logical, you can compare wealth to money, right? And what that means is money is as a store of value in itself may not really seem attractive. It may not do much because maybe it's just there lying in the account, in your bank account, or maybe you have cash, right? It's just lying there. You may not really see the value. The point you start to see the value is the very point you need to convert that money to something. So like you have a need, and then you have to maybe purchase something, and then the money comes in handy. That's when you really value or see the value of that money. That's how I like to see health, right? You're healthy, you might not really understand how important it is because, oh, you can wake up at any time you decide to. You can, go anywhere, you can eat anything, do anything, drink anything. It's a sweet life, it's a good life. And you don't really know how important that is until something is taken from you, until you're told, oh, you can't drink this, or oh, you can't eat this. If you continue doing this or eating this, you're going to shorten your lifespan by whatever percent. So at the point where you now have to sort of um negotiate, I want to say lifespan with your health, that's when you understand the importance of what you have, right? But the purpose of this lesson is to not make you realize that importance only when you need to make that exchange. You need to understand how important this is, even this very moment, even while you're fine, while you're hale and hearty, while you're bubbling and all over the place, right? And that's why health is wealth, right? And like I said, it's a store of value, and you want to, as much as possible, keep that intact. You don't want inflation or whatever to affect that value, because if it does, it means by maybe next year you won't be able to do the things that you're supposed to do. Meanwhile, you say you're healthy, but you can't do certain things. You can't even run, or in very serious cases, they tell you you can't drive, So health is wealth, and you need to treasure or hold it, very, very dearly, because the moment it slips through your fingers, that is it, literally. We talk about life expectancy, how much or the average number of years you're expected to live. Of course, this value varies depending on where you're from. Race significantly affects or contributes to your life expectancy. And like I said earlier, as a Black person, as a Nigerian or an African, you have to be, extra careful because of obviously you're more prone to some of these health conditions or challenges, than people of other race. Second is your body can take more battering at a younger age. And that is common knowledge, obviously. For people under 40, you you might think, oh, you can do anything you want to. And of course you can't, to be honest, because at that point you're still bubbling, you're still very much active, you can stretch yourself, you can decide to sleep 2 hours in a day, you walk overnight and then you eat anything you want to, like you're craving, whatever, and then you place the order and it's right there in front of you. You can get away with these things at a younger age, but it's only a matter of time, before it catches up with you. I like to see it as, a foundation. If you're going to live or have a healthy life, if you're going to be independent in your, say, 70s or your 80s, your under 40s is where you lay the foundation, right? Um, you aspire to be independent. You want to do your own things. You don't want to be bedridden, basic activities, right? You want to be able to take your bath. You want to be able to even open your mouth to communicate with people. And if you must do that at 80 or 90 or 100, then you have to start laying the foundation from what? Even as early as possible, 20s, your 30s, your 40s, right? So even though your body can take a lot of things, can handle a lot of things at a younger age, you also need to be mindful that you would not always be 40, you will not always be 30, right? You're going to be 60 at some point, you're going to be 70 at some point. I think there was a trend in 2022 or 2023, when ChatGPT started becoming popular. Uh, yeah, so that trend allowed people to, sort of mimic what they would look like at maybe 70 at an old age, right? So it gives you an idea that you're not going to be young forever, right? You're going to at some point get wrinkled, not be able to walk properly and do the things you want to do. So now is the time to of course lay the proper foundation. Next is manage your health challenges well. Obviously, proper health management, of course, prevents, disaster in the future. The secrets to surviving most health challenges I've seen or that we know is early detection. And how do you detect these things? You have to visit the hospital regularly. You have to do checkups. I'm not sure how many people do annual medical checkups here, but that's a thing that you should be looking to do every year. Some people do it twice, some people once, but at least a minimum of once a year, go for an annual medical checkup, you know, do check your vitals. I mean, especially if you have a family that has a history of some health challenges, right, or health conditions, you want to detect these things early. There are people who have, like, Femi mentioned, he's currently hypertensive, but it's under control. He does regular checkups. You're not caught off guard when you know that you're prone to, suffering from certain conditions. The next is your what you eat. And obviously, what you eat constitutes a large chunk of what your health is. What you eat generally now refers to the food or what you even drink or smoking, like whatever you take, you ingest definitely affects your health. So you want to be careful of what you eat. It's okay to have cravings, right? At a young age, you just sit down and you know what you're craving pizza, you're craving whatever, and you're having these things, you're consuming these things, you're probably not even doing exercises, you can't even remember the last time you had fruits or vegetables. But the moment you crave pizza or small chops or whatever, you're placing the order. And trust these guys, the delivery guy will be at your doorstep like in no minute, So you have to watch what you eat. If anything, try to like create a balance. When you crave these junk foods, and it's not totally wrong to have these things, but of course watch it, right, and try to create that balance. Have vegetables, have fruits, and be mindful. You want to reduce your salt intake. Food are high in cholesterol, because obviously these things would can turn into something else in the future, right? For instance, salt is one of the things that increases hypertension, right? Cholesterol, sugar, of course, is one of the leading, I think, causes of type 2 diabetes. So you want to, as much as possible, cut down the intake of these things. And sugar doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, you're just consuming, white sugar or whatever. It could be embedded in processed foods, right? You're eating anything, and then you obviously has a lot of flour. You're eating maybe cakes or whatnot. Now, these things are fine, but once in a while, especially if you want to have a good foundation. So, in summary, like I said, health is wealth. You want to be very careful. You want to store as much value as you possibly can, so that at old age, when you need to expend, these things, you would be very, very much able to do that. So yeah, I think that's it. I'll stop here for the contributions. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So, first, apologies for I don't know, my network just kicked me off earlier. Thank you very much for that beautiful review, Emmanuel. I mean that the chapter is about just 2 pages, but it was packed, and you've almost spent the 30 minutes to give them a beautiful lowdown of what the chapter is about. All right, so if there's anyone that wants to, anybody has contribution, you raise your hand. I'll look through the list and I'll ask you to mute your mic. Uh, before I give you the mic, let me just drop my own. All right, um, yeah, this chapter is actually very, very, I would say it is personal to me, right? Because if you know anybody that knows me knows that I'm always jumping around, right? I'm physically active. I'm not running, I'm going to the gym. I just like being physically active. And honestly, one of the major reasons why I like to be physically active is because I am scared of what my 60, 70, 80 years old would look like, right? When I think about them, like, okay, what can I do to make? I mean, you are going to you are definitely going to get old and get wrinkled, but how can I mitigate it such that it is not that bad? How can I manage myself such that I'm able to still stand, I'm still able to walk, I'm still able to go to the toilet myself, I'm still able to not just sit down there and and be wailing, right? And also same goes with all of the things that you consume, right? I know that I eat a lot. Personally, I know I eat a lot of junks and sweets, but in all honesty, I'm trying to cut it down. So basically, this chapter is like a reminder telling us that all of the if you go to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, Saturday, you work throughout the week, 365 days. If you not take care of the engine that is doing the work, you would not enjoy all of the the hectic days and the long nights and the long days. you would not live long enough to enjoy it. Or even if you live long enough to enjoy it, you would just be sitting somewhere. I mean, go sweet at the end of the day, right? So please I will yeah, you can mute yourself and let us hear you for the next few minutes. Hello? Are you there? I cannot.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for the opportunity. I want to drag Emmanuel out of, is it a cave, I will call it, where he's lost in programming and coding world. So we have to go and bring him out. And I'm excited that he was able to do this for us. And thank you so much, Eleshin, for your contribution as well. I just want to identify about three things. The first thing I want to speak about is that the future rewards people that are deliberate and intentional about their today. Okay? We should take our time to reflect about those words because when Femi was talking to us about don't fool around with your health, he's telling us that we need to be deliberate. And you can see in his own lifestyle how he was deliberate. He told us about his father, how the father was also deliberate, but unfortunately they will say Nigeria will happen to you, right? It was unfortunate that he took a counterfeit drug that led to his death. So that's the first thing, that we need to be deliberate and intentional about our future. Today, I see how much sausage or how much, what's the name of that thing? That people eat a lot. We see it in shawarma. Yeah, we see it in all of no, it's
In France and
yeah, chicken franks and stuff like that. We were told that that thing is class 1, is carcinogenic, meaning that it's one of the grade 1 of causing cancer. And I can see how people are slicing it into small chops today, putting it in jollof fries and even fried rice. So number one is we must deliberately take care of ourselves. Secondly, I want to emphasize is the fact that how Femi took care of his parents, of his father. He told us for 7 months he was with his father, right, in the hospital, wheeling him, carrying him on his wheelchair, sitting with him and being the primary caregiver. That tells us that as children, we need to take our time to take care of our parents, okay? Because this book is about telling us things we should learn. Don't be that kind of a child that will say that my parents, I'm independent and as a result I will not take care of them. That does not make him, that does not deduct from his big boy. That does not deduct from his wealth. That does not deduct from his fame. At least it's even very good for him to write about it. Imagine if he didn't take care of his parents. Do you think he'll be bold enough to write a book and say, my father was sick and I abandoned him in London and abandoned him? He can't write it in a book. History will never forgive him, right? But some of us, we take joy and we hear a lot of some of those strange things on the internet. Lastly, I want to talk about alcohol. Okay, I'm a Muslim and by my religion is entirely unacceptable or impermissible for me to drink alcohol. But all the books that I've been reading, all of the good speakers that I've been listening to, they will discourage all of us to take alcohol. I'm a fan of Aproko Doctor, number one fan of Aproko Doctor. Aproko Doctor will tell us about alcohol. Don't drink it, don't take it, it's not beneficial. Femi told us clearly in this book, it is not in any way beneficial to anybody. He said he took it and he stopped when he was 28. That does not change him from being a respectable person. That does not change him from being a social person. But the harm that this is giving to all of us is more. So those 3 points, I want us to reflect about it. I know some of them are debatable and all of that, but it is clear. Number one, we need to know that the future, we need to start working for our future by knowing what we eat. Secondly, our parents, they are very important for us to take care of them, right? And lastly, is alcohol. It's something that we should watch. Thank you, Emmanuel, and thank you, Eleshin.
Thank you very much for that, Adipam. Thank you so much. Also, just because you're a fan of Apko Doctor also said that They said an illness can wipe 5 years of your savings. I don't know if anybody has seen that post. He said, I don't know, but people have made that post. He said, a sickness can, a single diagnosis can wipe 5 years of your savings. What that means is that I mean, the best medicine is to be conscious and to be deliberate and obviously be proactive with your health. This is 801, and it's only fair that we call it a night. I want to thank everybody that has joined us this evening for being a part of this review. We do it every weekend, every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. I would love to see you all of here again next week. Same time, same place, same energy. Till then, have a wonderful weekend. Good night.